welcome everybody. So today I'd like to welcome Michael Banks to the show. He's involved in coaching, facilitating and training executives and managers in leadership, communication and emotional intelligence skills. So welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you, Keith.
Okay. And you're broadcasting all the way from Norfolk, aren't you?
That's right. The little village of Brook, which is just south of Norwich.
Okay.
Near the Broads.
Oh, lovely.
Near the beaches.
Yeah.
Which in this weather is a good thing.
I bet it's lovely up there.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, the format of the show, it's basically got three segments. Which first of all, if you just sort of tell us a bit about yourself, your story, how you got to be where you are today, and then also secondly, what sort of service you're offering, how you can help people, and so on. And thirdly, then we just go into and look at marketing, how you're marketing yourself. For instance, I know you're connected with this People Smart organization, talk about that, and also look at your internet assets, their internet assets, and so on. So, well, do you want to start by just telling a bit about your story, how you got to be where you are today?
Yes. How long have I got?
Probably about quarter an hour, 20 minutes.
Okay.
Up to.
I once back in London about 40 years ago, I met a psychic. I was recommended to a psychic. Owen Potts was his name. And one of the many things he said is that my life would be split into a number of different chapters, distinctive chapters. So when you asked me to talk about myself and how I got here, there's a long version, a short version.
The short version.
The short version.
Start with the short, and then we can expand if there's anything that's particularly interesting.
Just tell me if I'm going into too much detail.
All
right. So anyway, I went to an English boarding school.
Okay.
Public school, which is a complete misnomer because it's private, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And it was a nightmare, and I was traumatized. Back then it was the late 60s, and then I decided that I didn't like capitalism either. So I went to university. I studied English language and literature. I did a postgraduate in education.
Mm-hmm.
I taught as a substitute teacher at Blackheath Girls' School in London.
Okay.
But I was expelled after 7 weeks.
Right.
And I had to clear my name with the Inner London Education Authority. But I wanted to stay in education. I mean, I thought, well, if I don't like capitalism, I better stay in some form of education.
Yeah.
So after my postgraduate year, instead of going to Thailand, which I was scheduled to do for 2 years to teach 18 to 21-year-old Thai women how to speak English.
Yeah.
At the age of 22, that was me.
Yeah.
I fell in love, and I decided to stay in London.
Yeah.
And that summer of 77, I thought, well, I need a summer job at least.
Yeah.
So I ended up at Peckham Adventure Playground.
Okay.
On the North Peckham estate, which at the time was probably the worst slum area in London.
Right.
The highest child delinquency, the highest mugging rate, the highest this, that, and the other. It was a modern slum. And I was given a job by Willie Goodwillie, who was an absolutely brilliant guy. And I met him last week for the first time in 41 years.
Wow.
With his wife, Jill. Totally uneducated, formally.
Mm-hmm.
Very poor background from Scotland, and absolutely brilliant with people. Very intelligent guy, lovely man. So he gave me a job working with Jamaican youth, actually kids from 5 to 21. I learned a lot about how you could influence people, get along well, build rapport because you had to, so your car didn't get broken into. And there were knives around in those days, not guns, thank God.
Yeah.
But still scary stuff.
Mm.
And so after 2 years of that, Willie left and I took over. And it was considered the #1 adventure playground in the whole of London, 123 of them.
Okay.
And I worked with the Jamaican youth primarily, 13 to 21.
Yeah.
I started, not on my own, but as a team, we started a literacy centre.
Yeah.
A local newspaper called the Peckham Pulse.
Okay.
kind of community newspaper. Um, so I did that for 3 years, and I then kind of got burnt out because if you're in that environment and going to work every day, there's sort of knot in my stomach, the fear factor about, well, what could happen today,
Yeah.
you know. But I was very proud of the fact that my car was the only car never broken into.
Right.
I had my rapport skills were obviously good enough that
Yeah.
the word went out: you don't touch Michael Banks's car,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
out of limits.
Yeah.
So it was great. I remember the day that there was a 10-speed bicycle that was stolen from the adventure playground, and the oldest of the Jamaican youth, Wayne, was 21 years old. He came up to me and he used to wear a cap, and he looked down at me and he went, "No worry, man. Me I go on fix it." And so he went off, and within 10 minutes, the bicycle came back to the playground fully intact. He's a bit of a sort of godfather figure amongst the Jamaican youth there. Anyway, I did that. Then I thought, well, I'm going to go and trek around the Americas for a year.
Mm-hmm.
But before I could do that, I met someone who'd been on a self-realization seminar called exegesis, E-X-E-G.
I've heard of it.
Yes.
I remember I never actually did it because I always found the idea terrifying. But I did something else called EST, which was going around.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah, I think it's like a sort of English version, isn't it?
Yeah, well, exegesis was actually the guy who started it, Robert Daubeny, worked with Werner Erhard, who founded EST.
Okay.
And Robert was actually training to be the first person after Werner to lead the EST seminars, but he thought, no, I'm going to start my own thing in the UK.
Yes, I thought it was probably influenced by EST, yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very similar.
Okay.
And he ended up for 3 days running on the front page of the Sun, or was it the Mirror? One of the two. And headlines were like brainwashing cult and all that.
Of course, yeah, that's right, yeah.
So I did this self-realization seminar in 1980, and it just blew me away. It was incredible.
Okay.
And so then Robert invited me to actually lead these seminars.
Oh, okay.
Trained to lead them.
Okay.
So more education,
Yeah.
Which is the theme that gone through my life up to then.
Yeah.
But I ended up not doing that.
Right.
We formed a group of companies, and we had 9 companies in the end, and one of them was Programs Training Limited. So we used to have this amazing. Am I going into too much detail?
As long as you finish in about 5 or 10 minutes.
5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, maybe sort of speed up a bit.
I better speed up a bit. Anyway, Programs Training Limited. We were our own laboratory or experimental place for creating the ideal work environment. And then companies cottoned on to the fact we had something going for us. The fact that all our employees were happy, mostly happy and energized in England in the 80s. This is weird, but we want some of it. Anyway, so I became a senior trainer. I designed a program for Lufthansa called Effective Communication in the Workplace and so on and so forth. I left in 88. I took a year off and moved to San Francisco, Mill Valley, San Francisco, across the Golden Gate Bridge in 89 in September.
Okay.
In fact, I was there 3 weeks before the earthquake, the big earthquake then. So I had 2 phone numbers and 2 names, and I started from nothing.
Right.
And one thing led to another. I ended up, my first big client was American Express. Okay. And I became an expert in team building.
Right.
But so I was in the corporate world. I joined the capitalist world.
Yeah.
But I was still in education. And I got to go all over the world and worked a lot in New York. And I did a lot of executive team work in Japan and Singapore and Hong Kong, Europe. So it was fantastic. And in 1996, I joined a company called KRW International, Fred Keel and Catherine Williams, who were considered by most people to be the #1 executive coaching firm in America. They were pioneers in the field. And we were, I was building an empire. I was earning a lot of money. you know, fancy cars, fancy holidays,
Hmm.
a lot of prestige, miserable marriage, big house at Ireland on the Hudson River. But, you know, a miserable life in many ways.
Which is ironic because you were, in a way, you were sort of training people how to, well, at least function more effectively, to not
Yeah, it was all
necessarily be
coaching.
happier. But
I was doing
yeah,
coaching,
yeah,
essentially coaching corporate leaders, you know, C-level people at Amex and Goldman Sachs.
yes, but it wasn't. You weren't sort of teaching people how to lead happy, fulfilled lives. It's more about how to function more effectively
Well,
at work.
funny enough, it was, and you know, people used to say to me, what do you do?"
Yes,
And I said, "I don't tell the CEO this, and I don't tell the head of HR, but I help people to become better human beings."
right, okay,
So, you know, based on the idea that, you know, if you go through a lot of painful experiences yourself, and you're half awake and you learn from them,
yes,
you're then well qualified to help other people who are going through
yes,
similar challenges.
right,
So, yeah, so anyway, it all fell apart. We were
okay,
about to be bought. I was about to become really wealthy because one of four public companies chasing us, um, we finally decided to be bought.
yeah,
And 9/11 happened. We almost went under. I took no pay. And at the same time, the marriage completely fell apart. And suddenly I went from wealthy to the absolute opposite,
right,
absolutely penniless,
yes,
and very happy. It's really,
okay,
I mean, you know, I rediscovered or discovered even just how important community was,
yeah,
friendships, relationships, and I got off the
yeah,
treadmill of, you know, money, 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 billing, billing, billing the clients and all that.
mm,
Um, I'm going to fast forward now in the interest of time. But
okay,
so I went off on my own by 2005. I
yeah,
was living all the time in America. I lived there 28 years.
yes,
Um, and then I had a kidney failure in 2013,
yeah,
the transplant in 2014.
yeah,
Um, my
from your wife,
Yeah, well, actually, she's not technically. She's my
no,
partner. We've
partner,
been together for 15 years, but
right.
she donated one of her kidneys to me in
Which
2004.
you actually wrote a book about that, didn't you?
I did. It's called "Got a Kidney."
Yeah, and
That's
also you were on TV, weren't you? On the is it the
on the right
right stuff?
stuff. Yeah, Matthew Wright. I was on the right
Yeah, where
stuff.
you were talking about that experience and promoting changing the law, I think, so to do with the kidney donor card. So it's
That's
like
right.
opt out rather than opt in. Yeah.
So I did a lot of BBC interviews as well. Loads of
Okay.
BBC. Uh,
Have you
and
got
some
them? Did
American.
you did you capture them all onto? Did you
Uh,
record them all?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Okay,
there's
good.
some on my website, www.gotakidney.com.
Okay, because you don't link. We'll get onto that then, because that's not linked to from your LinkedIn profile. Because I was trying to find out
Ah,
about all your websites,
yeah.
but we can get onto that in the next section, but or the one
Okay.
after. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I had the kidney transplant, and you know, it's been quite a struggle in some ways because recovery takes a long time and it changes your
Okay.
body. Also, financially, I couldn't work for quite a while.
Really.
That didn't help financially.
Yeah.
But I'm at a point now. I came back from America after 28 years, as I said before, about 3 years ago, and I'm here, and I do a lot of do all kinds of
So it's
stuff.
amazing. You're in America for 28 years.
Yes.
So it's amazing you didn't pick up any of the accent. I mean,
Well,
I'd
I
never
do
have
say
guessed.
gas, but
What?
I say gas,
Gas. Okay.
and I say my T's are D's mainly.
Okay.
All right. I mean, but I don't sound American, but I don't sound 100% English. It,
I would have said you're. I mean, we haven't talked
really?
about gas yet, but pretty
Oh,
much I would have thought you're 100% English. Yeah.
well, that's interesting, isn't it? Maybe it's. I know that while I was out there, after a while, I got you could detect that it wasn't 100% normal
Right.
English.
Okay.
Maybe it's gone back. Maybe it's
Maybe.
living in Norfolk.
Maybe.
Because that's, you know, what do they say in Norfolk? Norfolk's a really weird accent. It's
Yes,
hard to mimic.
it is.
You're right then. It's a bit sort of like West Country as well.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's ironic, that, isn't it?
yeah, a lot of farmers around. It's a lot of
Mm.
farmland. So, But anyway, so today what I'm doing is all kinds of stuff. I'm writing a lot of articles. I've got two podcast series. Um, One is my pet, my baby, the heroic journeys from crisis to transformation.
Yeah,
I've got the business podcast series, Leadership Luminaries.
yeah.
As I said, I do a lot of writing. I do keynotes. I was in Bratislava in November.
Is that in the Czech Republic? Or
Actually, it's Bratislava is Slovakia.
Slovakia? Okay, close.
It's the old.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Okay.
so I was working with Lenovo, the computer company. I was doing a 3-day leadership program for about 23 of their executives.
Yeah.
Which is great, And so I do a whole bunch of stuff, but primarily I'm focused on the podcasting and also coaching, facilitation,
Okay.
that as well.
Okay. All right. Well, let's share my screen and we'll just go over some of your internet assets, and you can talk about what you're doing there. So is this your site, gotakidney.com?
It's 2 T's. Got a kidney.
Gotta. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to tell you a quick story about this one. My sister read it, and I said, "What do you think of it, the book?" She said, "Oh, it's very good. The only thing I didn't like is the fact that you're obviously American." She said all the language was American, which
Okay.
it was a complete revelation to me. I thought I just was writing English,
Okay. It's interesting, but I suppose America is the bigger market. So
it was also because I was living there for so long that all my phraseology was American.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so though you have the English accent, you're actually syntax and grammar and everything. You tend to move to America. Okay, so this is the book, and this is basically your story of how you faced this kidney disease and what you went through. Okay.
It's a love story as well. I mean,
a love story.
Yeah, I mean, because of what. In fact, I gave one of the chapters to Karen.
Yeah.
To write from the perspective of being the donor and what she had to face and go through.
Okay.
Because she had a lot of resistance from her family and her friends saying, "Look, don't."
Well, it's a big thing, isn't it, to donate a kidney? Yeah.
It's huge. I mean, there's risk involved, and it's scary.
Yeah.
So she's got a chapter in the book.
Okay.
And I managed to do it because the cover, which is fantastic, I think.
Yes.
The cover was designed by the design team from my friend Vishnu, who I used to play cricket with in San Francisco. And he's got a publishing company, and he said, "Look, I'll do it. I'll get my team on it, and you don't have to pay me a penny."
Okay.
I think it's a really cool cover.
It is.
If you go back to the website, you can go to that press and media.
Yeah, media press. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got Mike. There you go.
Oh, the right stuff. Yeah, I've already seen that. And then it's got listen to his radio interviews. Okay.
Ed Till, Starcom Radio. It's actually I got invited back again by Ed.
Okay.
Really well. I think the American audience I'm sort of more. Well, not more. I'm kind of a hybrid.
Yes, you are, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. And so also I noticed that any bargain hunters out there, you can actually pick it up used for 32 pence.
Amazing.
Sounds like a bargain to me.
I'll tell you what, I haven't looked at this for the last year or so.
No.
And that is a bargain. The only people that rated it less than 5-star or 4-star.
Yeah.
There were 2 typical, isn't it? English.
Right.
Look, what a horrible, selfish, arrogant person.
Isn't that interesting?
But these are Karen reckons that it's because it's a very positive story.
Yeah.
Even though it's scary as hell to begin with, and you get told you've got kidney disease, and
yeah,
it's very harrowing.
Of
being
course.
on dialysis and all that. But because I'm so positive, and the Americans are very positive,
Yes,
English can be very sort of cynical and skeptical.
I
Um,
think so. Yes.
and so, and the other thing is that I think there's one here who was upset with me or annoyed that I got the stage 4, stage 5 wrong. Even though
Okay.
I say at the beginning of the book, this is not a medical book.
No.
So if there's, it's not technically right. It's not. That's not the point.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So anyway, so that was that's a sort of one-off. That's not really connected with your main career. It's just like you had
No,
this massive, very traumatizing experience, and you wanted to communicate your story to maybe help people who are going through a similar thing, and
exactly.
also as an advocate, I suppose, for the changing the law to make it like an opt-out. Make people more aware of the issue, I suppose.
That's exactly right, Keith. And
Yeah.
and I'll tell you a little story about it. The book ended up in Bhutan, the Kingdom of Bhutan.
Okay.
My dear old friend Ian is friends with the royal family there, and he
Yeah.
also is friends with a young man who started the Kidney Foundation in Bhutan. And so when Ian went over there, he took a copy of the book to his friend,
Mhm.
Tashi Namgay, I think is his
Mhm.
name. And so Tashi really liked it and publicized it. And I got a text message from a young guy in his 20s who was about to face a transplant, who had kidney problems. And he said this was really inspiring reading this. It was really encouraging.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, if there is, if I just affected the life of one person like that,
Sure.
then it was worth doing.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that I made a mistake in two ways. One, it's self-published,
Yes.
and it wasn't able to get into Waterstones, even though they wanted it,
No.
so they can't do it.
Yeah.
And other places like the airports. The
Yeah.
other thing is that, and I didn't do any social media uh,
Right.
promotion.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
really, there was no promotion for it.
No, but it's never too late, is it? So you can
Well, I
still.
thought about getting it published by an official publisher,
Yeah.
and I thought about
Well,
rewriting.
already we're talking about this live on Facebook and YouTube, and it's going to go on LinkedIn, so it will get
Yeah.
some publicity. So
Okay.
that's something. So just going back to your other stuff you're doing. So that is your. So you said that is your website. You don't have any website as such yet for your coaching activities, do you?
I did for many years until just the other day, and I
Okay.
scrapped it. It was.
Okay.
I thought this. No, it's redundant. It's part of my past,
Okay.
um, and I don't need it. So I've got a copy of it if I need to revive it.
Yeah. Well, it's useful.
Um,
Yeah. Might be
but
useful.
my career has changed a bit. I'm not reliant on the website at all.
No,
At all.
because you get a lot
I
of
thought,
word of mouth.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
always been word of mouth, but even more so now. Um, I use the People Smart bio and website.
Yes, I was going to ask you about the People Smart because peoplesmart.fr.
Yeah.
So this is a collection of different consultants.
Yes, it's about 65 consultants. That's Chris Pether, who's the founder and CEO down there in the
That,
intro just there. She and I have worked very closely together. She's a wonderful, amazing human being.
yes.
And she actually, when I came back from America, I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
I had lost all my network, and I was really starting from scratch. And
Right.
a friend of mine introduced me to her, and we had a half-hour Zoom call.
Yeah.
And the next thing, I was on a train to Paris,
Hmm.
and she said, "I'd like you to work with the OECD, um, assessing their candidates for the top positions."
Okay.
And it was amazing. And since then, we swan around in conferences. We go to, before the lockdown, even in February, Seville, Budapest. And so I work very closely with her on business development.
Right.
And also then, of course, I've launched this new series leadership luminaries. And I think
Yes. Okay. So let's have a look at that. So,
Yeah.
what's the website for that?
Well, you had it on my link. You had it somewhere. I think my LinkedIn profile.
It's not here under contact info. It's not. It's not there. It's just got
No.
your phone, email, and so on. And
Those are my articles there. Some
it's
of
got
them.
your articles. Yeah. Oh, it's just yes. So it's under here. So is it? Yeah. So that is an episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. I was just listening to that. So
Oh, really?
well, only the intro. Well, I was waiting for you.
Professor David Clutterbuck.
Yes. Now he's a big. I have heard of him actually. He's quite a big name.
He's written. Get this. He's written 70. I think at least 70 books.
Wow.
And I said to him, "How the hell do you do that? That's like more than one a year." He said,
Yeah.
Or one a year if you started when you were a baby.
Yes.
He's quite a character. That's a great episode.
Okay.
I'm about to release another episode with Carrie Benedette, who's Australian, and
Okay.
I've got some amazing ones in the can already.
That's
They're
great.
really good, but they're sort of businessy oriented under the
Okay.
People Smart umbrella.
So corporate leaders and thought leaders share their personal stories of challenge and success and bring their own particular areas of wisdom and knowledge to bear on what's relevant now.
Yeah.
That's great. So if people want to find this, do they just search the podcast for those words, podcast leadership luminaries?
Yeah.
And then that's something different, I think, isn't it? Or is it? Oh no, that is the same. So that's an advert. I don't want to click.
Yeah.
And then either the number one as well. So that's great.
Yeah. You can see it on Apple and Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Anchor, and there's about 8 different platforms.
Okay, and so what is the purpose of doing these podcasts?
The purpose of the podcast is to, to educate people.
Yeah.
Obviously, and to inspire them as well as educate them.
Yes.
Because the guests that I choose are in different ways very inspiring and involved in very different projects.
Okay.
For example, I'll just be very brief and because I'm answering the question. Sylvia Smetana is the founder of Diversify. She's based in India. She's been there 3 years. And Diversify is dedicated to promoting women into the C-suite level of board level of corporations. And so she's fascinating, doing great work. Esther Stanhope, in the episode with her that's not published either yet, is a former senior BBC producer who's worked personally with George Clooney, Boris Johnson, Ab Fab, what's her name? Joanna Lumley.
Okay.
Noel Gallagher.
Okay.
And all these people. But she's an expert on speaking.
Yes.
Getting over your fear of speaking. And she's brilliant.
Yeah.
She's very inspiring and lots of practical tips. So I could go on with different examples, but I mean, basically we're talking about the series is designed to educate, inspire, and also to promote the brand of People Smart.
Okay.
I mean,
I was going to say, because obviously there must be some benefit, financial benefit to you and People Smart to do this, because obviously it takes up some of your time.
Well, it's what it is, Keith, is we have a social media strategy now that really was put into full force at the beginning of the lockdown.
Yeah.
Worked very hard on it. So that we could have our presence as a company. And I say ours, I'm actually not an employee.
No.
I'm a freelance. I can do whatever I like.
Yeah.
But it's such an amazing company.
Yes.
I get so much joy from doing the podcasts and the articles, and all that. So anyway.
So why do you do it? How do you record these? What software do you use to record these shows?
I use, I'm on a MacBook Air.
Yeah.
And I use Zoom.
You use Zoom. So you have a Zoom conversation with someone.
Yeah.
But you only use the audio. You don't use the video of it.
Yeah. We just had a meeting about that. My friend David, who's English, who's in Hungary,
Yes.
He is his great grandfather was the guy who created the word dinosaur. No, was it? He was the guy at the he invented the National History Museum.
Really?
He was a founder. He was
Okay.
for a while a colleague of Charles Darwin.
Okay.
Anyway, long story short, David wanted to have a visual, which is a picture of the inside of the Natural History Museum.
Yeah.
And also to have some slides. And he said, I'd like to do a video. And he's built himself this little studio up in the top of his little house he built.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've actually recorded one. And we are actually I'm going to send it to our tech guy to as an example of what we can do going forward.
Yes. So is it going to be a video of you talking to the other person, or is it going to be what you just said?
Well, it's going to be. It could be anything. Me talking to another person.
Yeah.
Or it could be have some effects.
You could add some effects to it.
There's different things we could do. We haven't finalised.
Yes, I think. Well, so we'll start off with the two people talking, but then you can add effects to it. I mean, I've seen that sometimes when videos, if someone says a certain point, that's a powerful point, like so when you're talking about, oh, got a kidney, could flash up words on the screen, got a kidney, question mark, or just to emphasise, because people need waking up a bit. We need a bit more oomph or sensory overload to grab our attention. So you are going to start doing them as videos as well, are you?
Maybe.
Oh, I don't see why not. I mean, it's like you've got it anyway, so you don't even need to process it or add effects. It's so easy if you've got it on Zoom, just a couple of clicks, and you've got it there on YouTube and Facebook. So, I'd go for it.
Yeah, well, that's excuse me. I mean, I aspire to the sort of the Joe Rogan scenario, or True Geordie, or where they've got their own studios, they're across the dining room table.
Yes.
You bring out the whiskey or the cigar or the
props. So he does his on video and audio, doesn't he?
Who?
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that's right. And then Brian Rose of London Real.
Yeah. So it just makes sense to have it.
But then again, it's high production value, isn't it? And it's expensive. I mean,
because you don't need to go into any props or anything. You could just do it like I'm doing, and it's not costing any extra money. Just put it on YouTube and Facebook. So
okay, but they got I suppose it's when you look at a Joe Rogan interview, you see a sort of a brick wall and some fancy gear and.
Well, I just got a screen up behind me,
which I like,
for my dodgy wallpaper. So,
I like that.
£60. It doesn't have to be. Yeah, well, it's nice to have something neutral, I think. Otherwise, I'm sort of trying to work out what book. I always try and see what books people have.
But the thing about me is I bought this nice green screen. I can't make it work yet.
Right.
Because I really, really, really want the green screen.
Okay.
So that I can put whatever background I want. I'm not happy having this bookshelf here.
Okay.
It's not even my books.
Right. Well, it makes you look learned.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I am.
Yes.
Maybe in some ways, anyway.
Yeah.
But so we'll see about the video. I don't know.
Okay. So anyway, so that's one. You've got another podcast as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that's my baby. That's the heroic journeys from crisis.
Because this leadership luminaries is for, yes, as you said, to promote People Smart, and you're also doing one on your own, which I think, has it started yet, the other one, or will it start soon?
One on my own started last summer.
Okay, so let's have a look for that. So what do I have to Google to find that?
And
what
has
do
a
I
bit of
Google?
history to it already.
What do I Google to find it?
Just heroic journeys from crisis to transformation. There you go, podcasts.
There we go. And there we go, Anchor.fm, Michael Banks 2. So you do it on Anchor?
I do it through Anchor. It's also on Apple. It's on...
Yes, because Anchor distributes it. Anchor is what I use for my podcast, which this will go onto as well.
Oh, okay.
So it's a great platform, yeah.
It's the photograph is actually, I took it when I first came over from the States, and it's a Norfolk beach
It does look like Norfolk, yes.
Yeah, and that I'm so ridiculously tech stupid. I've never got round to, and I don't know how to change the image on the front.
It's
Uh,
very easy.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I will get to it. But okay, so the history of this is that
You
I
just click your picture in the corner where it's got settings, and then you click on update settings.
Uh-huh.
Then you can, because I changed mine the other day actually, then update cover art.
Ah,
It's
I
as
like
simple as
that.
that. And then you can go, yeah. This is me actually in another of my shows. I just removed the background or
Yeah,
using Canva, and I put this nice
I
background.
like it. It's
Yeah.
very cool. See, I need to do something. I can't have the boat all the time. As much as it's a very
I think it's nice that if you have a face, I think it
uh,
tends to get more clicks, more attention.
yeah,
I've
that's a good point.
noticed.
Very
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, I mean, so let me just tell you very briefly. I went on a course with London Real with Brian
Oh,
Rose.
did you?
Broadcast yourself. It's very, very good.
Okay.
I can't recommend it too highly.
Okay.
So that allowed me to get started. Then what happened? I was part of the course, or near the end. It was the official launch. Now, I never officially launched my podcast, this podcast series. I actually smashed my leg. Um, Long story, I won't go into it, but I smashed it, and it went through 3 phases of pain, and it was
Oh,
awful. And I
yeah.
was basically out of commission for about 6 months.
So how did you? What was the initial accident? How did you?
Well, it was the middle of the night, and I wasn't
Oh,
even drunk. It was very strange. I failed to put the bedside light on. I
yeah.
went to the loo, and on my way back into the bedroom,
Yeah.
I fell. This is going to sound weird. Well, let me say I fell onto the edge, the corner edge of the bed base, which is
Right.
wooden and hard.
Yeah.
The angle at which I did it and where it actually hit my leg
Wow.
was very. I still to this day can't figure out how I possibly could have done it unless someone had pushed me. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, no one in the room.
Yeah.
I'll leave that an open question. Um,
I
very
mean,
much.
it's easy, I suppose, when you're in the middle of the night, when you're half awake, it is easy to just sort of miss your step or something like that.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that. That's
No.
possible. It's just the angle at which it happened.
So it's just one of these random things that could happen to anyone,
Yeah,
anytime. It's just you're unlucky enough it happened to you.
yeah, and I thought everything was fine until midday
Yeah.
the next morning. I'm sitting there at my desk. I noticed that my leg around just below my kneecap was starting to balloon out.
Oh,
And then within half an hour, it was like double the size of my other leg
wow.
and black. And anyway, it ended up with a venous ulcer, which is, I mean, for day and night, I was on heavy duty painkillers for weeks,
Wow.
months.
Wow.
But anyway, it knocked me sideways, so I had to
Yeah.
stop this. And then I got busy January, February. So I still haven't officially launched.
Well, what does it mean to officially? I mean, I haven't really officially launched my podcast. I just sort of started doing it. So, how are you going to officially launch it?
Well, I want to send out an email. Well, first of all, I'm going to have create a website for it.
Yes, you need a web. Well, I think you need a web. I think you need a website for yourself, don't you? Which could include the podcast. Doesn't that make sense? Or?
Yeah, it does. Because one of the things that I'm promoting is Michael Banks.
Yeah.
The brand Michael Banks. I mean, after I
Yeah.
spent that session with Esther Stanhope, who, is used to coaching Boris Johnson and people like that.
Yes.
She said, "You're an absolute natural. Thank you for your voice. You should be in broadcasting, or you should have been."
Yeah.
And then she said, "Well, so I'm very happy to be promoting myself as a brand. But I
Yes.
do need a website for this podcast series.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
need,
why do you? Okay, so well, the important thing is that people find out about it, isn't it? So, because normally people with podcasts, people find out by searching the podcast app, but also these. Are you going to do these on video as well? In the same, back to our discussion about leadership luminaries.
I thought about that
Yeah,
originally. It was always my intention to do video as well.
yeah,
And because, you see, going back to your question about the launch, I mean, website, social media presence has to be there
yeah.
consistently, and an opportunity for people to subscribe and to go to my website, to be directed there. But initially to get the word out to about 1,000 people, ideally.
Okay.
The people on my mailing list, or my email contacts list, LinkedIn, Facebook.
Oh, so you have got, yeah, so you have got a sizable contact list.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much is you're able to do these because of GDPR.
Yes.
But I've got about 1,000 followers
Okay.
on LinkedIn, or just under.
Yeah.
I've got Facebook. I don't know how many I've got, 500 or 600 maybe.
Okay, you talking about your personal page, or do you have like a business page on Facebook?
I don't have a business page.
Oh, you don't. You just
I've
got
got a kidney has got a Facebook page,
Okay.
and I've got my personal page.
Okay. Well, what I recommend is you get a business page for Facebook, or
Uh-huh.
like Michael Banks, the brand, and also a YouTube channel, and then possibly also Instagram account, and then because you're recording these the same way on Zoom, are you? So you have the
Yes,
video. So
yes,
then you can just every one you do,
yeah.
like I do, you post it onto YouTube and Facebook, and you can do it like this is as Facebook. It's already there on Facebook as we speak. It's actually live there, so I don't even have to do anything to that. And then you can also repost it easily onto LinkedIn because you've got the YouTube link then, and also you can put the link on Twitter and Instagram and other places if you want. So it's all very easy to do, and you might as well, because the more places you get it, the better. The more.
Absolutely. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that the actual well, first of all, so I hope I'm answering your question about what do you mean launch.
Yes.
I mean, website, social media stuff,
Yeah.
properly done, consistently,
Yeah.
and the branding through that as well. And
Yes.
because what my plan is that, I mean, first of all, why did I do this? I mean, I did this. You're going to ask me about this series.
Yes.
I did it because my life has been a series of crises that have transformed me, because I've used the suffering and the pain. I mean, kidney thing was one, there's others.
Well, I can think of three already. Yes, the kidney thing, your leg, and losing all your money.
Yeah, I think the leg is a minor one.
Okay.
Definitely the losing money, the meltdown
Yeah.
after 9/11.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah, that. And then there was another one, which was the medical miracle when I was 32, which is to do with coming back from Egypt and being in hospital for several weeks. And all they knew is I was dying on a Sunday. And
Wow.
they had to operate to see if they could find out, if they could save me.
Wow.
And they found out that my appendix had grown into the stomach wall, formed an abscess. It all exploded weeks before they opened me up. I should have been dead. In fact, they had a conference about me.
Yeah.
Doctors from all over Great Britain. The topic was, how is Michael Banks still alive? No, seriously, it is. But there's all sorts of other stuff. So Keith, the reason I did this is because I know what I'm talking about when it's being in education as well.
Yeah.
How do you, and having a basic philosophy of you can always find a positive out of every disaster, out of every negative. And the key is to actually become happier and wiser and learn from all those tough times.
Yeah.
So all my guests on Heroic Journeys are men and women, not just in this country, but also others, who've been through really challenging, horrible times and have learned from it, and then can inspire the listeners and provide practical advice as well.
Yeah.
Because
if you are facing a really tough time, wherever it is, I think it helps to speak to someone who's been through a similar experience, because they understand what you're going through a lot better. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I love it. And again, going back to the launch, I have this knack of being able to get through to famous people.
Yeah.
And I will
Okay.
I'm not ready yet, and I can't tell you how frustrating it's been. There's a bunch of people. I'm going to have really kind of well-known people on who've got followers themselves,
Yes.
not because their crises are any more real and human than you and I or regular
Yes.
folks, but because the audience is hopefully going to grow when I've got more sort of well-known people because of their followership.
Exactly. Well, this is the this is known as the Dream 100. That you have a list of 100 people, with big audiences, and then you try and work with them in some way and get known to their audience.
Oh, I didn't know
So,
there was such a thing as Dream 100.
yes, it is a strategy. It's in this book, Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. That's why I first came across it. But yeah, and it's well, it just sort of makes sense, really, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and I've got to tell you, I can tell you publicly because this is the first time we've been on live streaming.
Yeah.
Uh, the person from the beginning that I wanted to interview more than anyone, who is a classic example of going from crisis to transformation,
Yes.
is a sports person
Okay. Yeah.
who was in big trouble 2 or 3 years ago in Bristol, and who was then a national hero last summer.
I don't. I'm not big into sports.
All right, Ben Stokes.
Ben Stokes. Okay.
Ben Stokes.
Yes.
What an amazing story! It looked like.
So for the sake of our listeners,
Yeah.
Briefly summarise his story.
The story about Ben Stokes is he was a young England cricketer.
Yeah.
He had a huge amount of talent and was already doing extremely well.
Yes.
At 2 o'clock in the morning, outside a Bristol nightclub, he was arrested for grievous bodily harm or something like that.
Yeah, I think I remember
punching
that,
a guy out, and they had it on video.
Yeah. Okay.
And he was taken to court.
Right.
And he was facing a prison sentence, and half the nation was saying, disgusting. He should be banned from cricket for life,
Right.
etc., etc. In actual fact, there were 2 young gay guys there who were being abused and persecuted by 2 guys.
Right.
And he weighed in on their behalf and punched one of the lights out.
Yeah.
And I'm not condoning it, but
No.
I thought, well, I can understand. Well, good for him.
Sure. Well, that bit obviously wasn't on the video. It just showed him punching someone later.
There's video footage of him laying a gun
exactly.
out.
Yeah. That's right.
But anyway, so he went from that, and it was he was vice captain of England cricket.
Yeah.
That was taken away from him. He
Right.
missed the Ashes tour of Australia, which is the big cricket event in the world.
Yeah.
Because of his court cases and all the rest.
Yeah.
And while that was being decided, was he going to be put in jail for X years or what? Fast forward, he was actually he wasn't convicted.
Yeah.
Fast forward to last year, England won the 2020 World Cup.
Okay.
In England.
Yeah.
And he was the hero.
Right.
He was like Mr. Captain Incredible.
Yeah.
And then in a test match against the Australians, he achieved an amazing innings where, again, out of this world cricket play. And he became a national hero.
Okay, so so it raises a lot of points, doesn't it? So the crisis, I mean, there are many different types of crises he had. The one he had was one in terms of his publicity and his reputation. And he faced, because he was a celebrity already, everyone just suddenly turned against him. And that's just presumably your show is not all about reputational crises, is it? It's many different types of crises. But reputation crises can be extremely emotionally painful as well as financially catastrophic. And in that case, he turned, I mean, and some people, something like that does destroy their reputation for life and they never ever come back. But I suppose the point is, don't let yourself be demoralized, just sort of carry on and plow through it. And maybe, people are quite fickle. They sort of forget, don't they? And then as long as you do something good again, then they're happy to have you on there. Oh, well, they might start feeling sorry for you as well, if it's a bit overdone.
Yeah, I think there has to be, I think the vast majority of people, given the opportunity, believe in will forgive and
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
in the concept of redemption. That
Yeah, well, I
everyone
certainly
has to
do.
come.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I do too. I
yeah,
mean, the concept of redemption is people need an opportunity to be redeemed.
yeah.
If they're going to repeat offend, well, then they're stupid and they deserve what they get. But in
Well,
his
but then they could also redeem themselves after that, because there's always a chance.
yeah, there's always that.
Yeah,
But I definitely think that in Ben's case, he has good values,
yeah,
and in the moment, he wasn't able to. And this is where one of the things you've not even mentioned, I haven't either, is I'm an expert in emotional intelligence.
okay,
And so, what was very important for him at that moment, probably fueled by some alcohol as well, he
yes,
didn't manage his extreme sense of anger at seeing these two gay guys being persecuted.
yeah,
He didn't manage it. He
yeah,
didn't show the emotional intelligence skill to
yes,
deal with it appropriately.
okay. So the phrase emotional intelligence, I think that was popularized by Daniel Goleman, wasn't it, in his book of the same name?
Yeah, and I knew him. I'm in his second book. I'm quoted
Oh, are you?
a couple of times. Yeah.
Because I met him once at a book site. I bought his. He wrote. I went to see the Dalai Lama speak at the O2,
Ah,
and Daniel
nice.
Goleman was like emceeing it, and
Yeah.
the Dalai Lama referred to him as his friend, and Daniel
Yeah.
Goleman had a book signing afterwards. So I went out and bought his book, and
That's great because he
yeah,
actually co-wrote a book with the Dalai Lama, I think.
that's right. Well, A Force for Good was his book about the Dalai Lama, so
Oh,
maybe that's
is
the one
that
you're,
what it is?
because he's into, well, he's also got a very spiritual side, but also he's into science, isn't he? And also he's a
Yeah.
journalist as well. So
Yeah.
that's how he
Well, it's
said.
very, very interesting because, well, a couple of things. I
Yeah.
was teaching emotional intelligence 10 years before he brought out his first book.
Oh, really? Okay. So it was a
And
thing. It was already a concept before he wrote a book
it
about it.
wasn't called emotional intelligence,
No. Okay.
but the actual principles of emotional intelligence in communication
Yes.
between people, I was teaching those. And that's a whole other story. That's because I had a mentor. I mentioned him earlier, Robert Daubeny, who actually taught me and others about what goes on, the difference between responding and reacting, which is
Yes.
essentially the core of emotional intelligence. Uh,
Yes. Reacting and responding. Yes.
yeah, and that responding is when you choose
Yes.
how you're going to communicate, and
Yes.
reacting is when you're out of control. You're a victim of your feelings.
And I think it's also to do with how the brain developed, because they say like crocodile brain or reptile brain, which is very instinctive and reactive,
Fight or
which is the
flight.
first part, and then as humans, where we've got these frontal lobes, which gave
Yeah,
us the ability to reflect and
the
take a bit of
amygdala.
time and work. Yeah, but as you said, most of us tend to be quite reactive most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and emotional intelligence. So anyway, I've been teaching it, 35 years.
And there's these tests they do on kids, aren't they? They say, look, you can have one sweet now, but if you don't eat it, 5 minutes later, you can have another sweet. And when they're below a certain age, they always have the sweet now. But then as they get older, they realize
Ah,
that
delayed
delayed
gratification.
gratification, yeah, they go for the two
I'm a
sweet.
great believer in that. I
Well,
think
yes, but you can take it too far that you spend your whole life working in a job that you hate, or dreaming of your retirement or something like that.
I
So.
think I don't. I'm not sure if that's delayed It's a good point, Keith. But I don't know if it's delayed gratification. It's
No.
it's forced delayed
Yeah.
gratification or
Okay.
self-enforced. I mean, my dad was like that. He worked for the civil service, the Inland Revenue, for years up in
Okay.
Somerset House, and he would take the train every day and come back on the train. And he was a really bright guy, but
Hmm.
in those days you didn't get promoted. Um, you only got promoted according to your age.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
he had to wait until one guy at the top was old enough died, literally, and they
Yes.
put someone up, and he was very frustrated, and
Wow.
he only got a life when he retired at 55.
Yeah.
Prior to that, he was a miserable.
And there's a lot of people in that same situation.
Yeah,
So we're coming up to the hour. So supposing Ben Stokes is watching this and he wants to be on your show, or other people who've had some kind of heroic journey from some kind of crisis, or anyone really wants to contact you, how should they do that?
sure. Well, probably the best way to do that is my email address.
Okay.
Um, And do people give out their phone numbers, their cell phone numbers?
Well, I've already given it out because you put it on your LinkedIn profile.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
I don't put my phone number on my LinkedIn profile. And if I did, I've got a call answering service, so
Ah,
I put that on it. So it's up
maybe
to
I should
you.
reconsider in this day and age
I
doing that.
would, yeah. I mean,
But
it's good to
but
have like
my
a level of privacy to protect.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree.
Because they can also contact you via this, can't they? Via Anchor, can't they leave a review on there? I mean, you will have a website soon anyway, won't you?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure about if they can leave something on Anchor. They might be able to do. I
Because I
think
know
they
they
can.
can leave like reviews or audio reviews and so on.
Oh. Actually, you know what? I think one person did that originally.
Message, there, look, see that? Oh, you're not, oh, I haven't shared my screen.
No, that's all right.
So, I'll just share my screen. Obviously, they can go into, if they
Oh, a
search
message.
heroic journeys from crisis transformation. There's on your anchor.fm page, there's a thing there they can message you.
Oh, okay.
And also, an anchor.fm wants to use your microphone. So I could actually leave a voice message for you. I think that's the idea. Or they could go to
People
your
smart.
page. Well, they could go to People Smart. Or they
LinkedIn.
could go to, if they're on LinkedIn, they could go there and message you there. Or they could go onto the People Smart page and presumably find your consultant profile there. And
Actually, I'm not sure if it has my email address, but good. Why
no,
don't I just say my
yeah, go on.
personal email address? It's very simple, michaelbanks7@gmail.com. So that's one word, MICHAELBANKS, the number 7,
Yeah,
gmail.com.
okay.
So LinkedIn, my personal homepage, michaelbanks7@gmail.com.
And your podcast
And
through
the
your
podcast as
podcast
well.
anchor.fm pages. Yes, both
Yeah.
of those.
Um,
Oh, it's been wonderful having you on the show.
thank
And
you.
hopefully you'll come back at some point in the future and we'll talk about, the amazing, all these incredible people you've got on your podcast and your new website and social media presence and how you're helping lots of people develop more emotional intelligence, which I think is much needed in our society.
Well, thanks, Keith. And very quickly, I know we're wrapping up, but thanks for the tips that you've given me
Okay.
already.
Yeah.
Some 2 or 3 really good tips.
Yeah.
And also, one more thing is that once I do the official launch that we were talking about of my podcast series, Heroic Journeys,
Yes.
I'm actually going to then invite people to workshops.
Okay.
All right, because that'll be the combination of me as a facilitator, workshop leader, coach,
Yes.
and I'll be sending out details about that down the road.
Yeah, so rather than working one-to-one, it makes sense to work one-to-many because obviously it's a lot more affordable for people and you can reach a lot more people and so on.
It's also more fun. I
Yeah,
mean, because I really like to have the interaction. I love working with groups. I just love it.
yeah.
And I believe that we have collective wisdom in a group.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
Sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could also, so these are going to be physical groups rather than Zoom groups, or maybe
Could be
both.
either. Could be either.
Either,
I
yeah.
mean, if they're international, it might be Zoom, or if, depending on the circumstances of travel.
Yes.
But ideally in person, like London, Paris, whatever.
Sounds great, yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right then, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, see you, Michael. Bye.
Cheers.